Hey guys, what's up? It's Tyler Kluver. This is the Snapped Podcast. So glad that you're joining me. On this podcast, we're going to talk about diet, exercise, mindset, training, sports, performance, and any of the things that we discuss, me or the guests that I bring on, is going to help you get better and help you get healthier in some way or another. We're glad you're here. Sit back, relax. Let's have it. Oh, baby, we're back. What a week. What a week it's been. My goodness. This week on the Snapped podcast, and I'm working as I do this, right? I usually work 4 to 6 hours a day. I keep it light. I'm in an incredible situation where both of the jobs that I do are not necessarily based on clocking in, clocking out, 9 to 5 type work, sitting at a brick and mortar building. I mean, I guess my house is brick and mortar, but I don't have to go somewhere and, the boss isn't going to see if I walk out of work early, right? Because I am the boss. It's a great spot to be. It's a dangerous spot to be, depending on who you are. If you've got sort of work ethic issues and stuff like that, but I'd like to think I don't. The results say I don't, and the results are that life is nuts. Life is nuts. Not so much on the fitness side of things. I obviously appreciate so much the kind people who decide to listen to this podcast each and every week. And I know several of you, and I talk with several of you about it. But the other side of my life and what I do, which is podcasting and actually this is something I can verbalize here in this audio journal of mine that, for an audio journal does get quite a bit of listens. But anyone out there ever, does anybody out there have trouble saying what they do? Maybe not, right? Like if you do have one of those 9 to 5 jobs, like if you're an accountant, it's pretty easy when someone asks, "Oh, what do you do?" "I'm an accountant." There's a title, right? For me, it's not exactly that easy. I could just say personal trainer, right? Before the podcast really took off. And, last year, I guess, when I was doing I did 3 challenges in 8 months and was going hard on the one-on-one coaching, really trying to nab clients and get people signed up. And that was the majority of what I was doing each day. Oh, there's the yawn for the respect, because this is real. And I only put out what's real to the people. Back when that was the thing, it was like, well, I'm a personal trainer, but I do it's online. So I write programming, and then send it to people. I have a couple clients that I do Zoom training with, and then we do nutrition stuff too. So that's a long drawn out answer. That's a little bit vague. I think the best answer that I ever landed on was oh, I'm a remote fitness and nutrition coach. That's a title, remote fitness and nutrition coach. That worked, right? But now, the majority of my income is heavily based towards the Walk-Ons, the Washed Up Walk-Ons podcast. And it's no longer just a podcast. And it wasn't before, but it's legitimately no longer a podcast. There are now 3 plus, there's 3 for sure, really sort of more. You probably say 4 or 5, 3 significant income streams. Another yawn. Income streams. I would say 3 significant ways that podcast makes money. All right. So we do, we have enough listeners. We have a big enough fan base that we are attractive to advertisers. So we have we signed a deal with iHeart, and then iHeart deals with all of our advertising. So iHeart sells an advertisement to a car dealership for so much money per 1,000 listens. They get 50%, we get 50%. And then based on how many people listen to our podcast, they pay us that money. So that's a lot of money, right? And with the recent growth, we've been going absolutely nuts. We do a washed up walk-ons, like merchandise side of things. So the Hawks by a Million stuff is really the most popular items. Most recently, the flag has gone ballistic. And we're going to do like $50,000 worth of revenue on just Hawks by a Million flags in the last 5 months of this year. So that's absurd. And then we do a Patreon, which is where we provide extra content. We release episodes early to people. They get the video versions. They get discounts off our merchandise stores. Part of it goes to the Children's Hospital, access to a bunch of other things, an extra episode each week, all this extra stuff for people who really enjoy our brand, really enjoy what we do. And that has basically tripled in the last month. So all of this to say, what does this have to do with like health and fitness podcast, right? And in the intro, I say health, fitness, growth, whatever I say, it's cheesy as hell. But part of that personal health, and I'd like to think that this is like not a self-help, but like a self-improvement sort of entrepreneurial podcast as well, right? That's what both of the ventures are that I have. By the way, now when people ask, I think I'm going to tell them that I own a sports-based media brand. Sounds really good, huh? Owner of a sports-based media brand that includes merchandising, a popular podcast, and exclusive content. Now that sounds like I got my shit together. Let me let you in on a little secret. I don't have any of my shit together. We're doing this on the fly, baby. But part of that is self growth and entrepreneurship and mindset and personal knowledge building and whatever you want to call it, right? Like the constant betterment of who you are as a singular person inside of you. Learning more. Always putting in the work in the gym. Always being willing to put yourself in opportunistic situations. All these things, right? And I think that's a really big part of staying healthy. It's almost like a social fitness or like an entrepreneurial fitness, right? And so the update on my life is that is at an all-time high right now. And it is ballistic. It is going absurd. I just did a podcast today with Etor Ewan, better known as Big E. Okay. So if you just search Big E on Google, you'll see who he is. He is currently, as of the time of this podcast, the WWE champion. Okay. WWE, very large entertainment company, sport, professional wrestling, as big as it gets. And he's currently the guy, the champion of that promotion. So, and he sat down with us for almost an hour today. Former Hawkeye, there's the connection, said Hawks by a Million in Iowa City on TV. And that's part of our success. So we're, it's just being handed to us right now, but it's absolutely absurd. And I guess the one thing I want to say about this, because I am going to move on and talk about some another specific part of give you an update on the 20 rep squat program and some food stuff that I've found interesting. But I guess in my life, and maybe at some point we can do a longer podcast about this specifically, but it's very, very, very evident that the cliche success is when preparation meets opportunity. That could not be more true in my life. Success is when preparation meets opportunity. I don't even know. Yep, that's it. That's the correct. Okay. Just had to quick Google that because I'm not the guy who just remembers shit like that, but I remember that one. I remembered that one. And it's so true. I think back on my life and I think about, and this is so narcissistic. Again, I'm talking into this microphone like I'll just listen to this back someday and nobody else is listening. And it sounds like I've made it, and I haven't. We're just beginning. But every so often, I do think it's good to reflect on, a little bit of success that you've had. And I would say growing the podcast sports media brand of the Washed Up Walk-Ons into an actual livable salary that for the time being is sustainable. I would say that's a small bit of success to celebrate. And I just think that the things I've learned in the last 3 years doing that is that a lot of those successes parallel the success I had in long snapping in my football career. Really there's 3 large successes in my life right now. If you were to really break it down, right? I was in the 1% of the 1% of football players who got to not only play college football, but start on a Division I team. That's 1. I would say 2 is the success of my entrepreneurship to this point. 3 or 4 years into becoming an adult and getting into the real world, and then the success of my wife and I's relationship and sort of how steady that has been over the last decade. And the parallels between all 3 of those is that success is when preparation meets opportunity. Maybe a little less on the relationship side. It doesn't so much apply, but I'm sure if you really wanted to break it down, you could relate it. But the other 2, I just did it because I liked it. I long snapped because I was good at it and because I enjoyed it. I knew that there was potential. We did the podcast purely. We started this freaking podcast just because we thought, oh, there's some people that like following us on Twitter. Maybe they'd like to hear a podcast, right? And I did both with a passion. I put 100% into both. While it was never for the money, always had a growth mindset in mind and was always open to whatever opportunities were in the ecosystem of that specific skill or venture. And I was prepared when I went to that long snapping camp in Wisconsin, my summer before senior year. And there was an opportunity to win that competition and get picked for the Under Armour All-American game in Florida on TV. My preparation met that opportunity. I won that bitch, and the rest is kind of history. And the same thing with this podcast. There's plenty of times with this podcast that I was like, that Kevin and Drake, my co-hosts, were like, I don't really have time to do it today, or I don't want to do it. If you go back, you can find a couple episodes where I've had to repost an episode or do an episode solo or whatever it may be. And it was, that preparation of being so consistent with the podcast and staying dedicated and continuing to post content and continuing to get guests and continuing to make it a thing has now met the opportunity of, oh, we have a ton of listeners. Hawks by a million, a popular phrase that we kind of made even more popular, is now catching on and being associated with our brand. And people are saying it on national television, and that person's coming on our podcast, and iHeart wants to sign us. And now all of this sort of opportunity presents a financial side as well. And it's just like, man, it's just crazy. And it's really hard to do those things because it's really hard to make sure that that preparation is put in when that opportunity arises, because it's not a guarantee that the opportunity does arise. That's why it's tough. And that's why a lot of people fail, is because, and sometimes it's not even because it's not even their fault that they weren't prepared. It's like a lot of people take chances on a business idea or, a career path that they think is going to work out. And they do it and they do it and they try and be prepared for as long as they can. And the opportunity never comes. There's a little bit of luck involved with it. Probably a lot of luck involved with it. And they get to a point where it's like, well, shit, I can't sustain myself anymore. I have to give this up and go get a job that pays me money, that now doesn't allow me to chase this dream or this side hustle or whatever it may be. And the opportunity never rises. And that's where a ton of gratitude comes in. And it's just crazy. And I'll probably talk about it more at some point, but it's just wild, man. Quick update on the 20-day squat program today. As you guys remember, when I put that episode out, if not, if you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. It's a 20 rep squat program. I kind of break down what that looks like. Basically, you squat Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 days a week for 6 weeks. That's 18 total squat workouts. Today was, week 4, day 2. So that would be workout number 11. I'm over halfway through. I'm on the downhill. Still have not had to adjust the weight. The idea of this program, if you didn't listen, was you add 5 pounds every day to your working set of 20 reps, and you just do that one working set. Today, I started at 185 back 3.5 weeks ago. Today, I did my top set of 20 reps at 235 pounds, and it's wild, man. Like, I did a set of 5 at 275 to start this thing. And that was it. That was all I could do. And I threw on 235 today and did a set of 20. So I know for a fact that it is going to get brutal, probably, I would say hopefully not until Friday of next week. By the way it's felt so far. That would be, Friday will be 240. Monday's 245. Next Wednesday's 250. So at 255, which is 15 pounds under my 5 rep max at the beginning, to do for a set of 20, I think it's going to start to get pretty brutal there. Right. And then that final week is going to be a real kind of, you got to buck up and actually suffer. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm not even going to talk about the other thing. The other thing was basically make sure you're eating enough food. If you're trying to gain weight and gain strength, make sure you're eating enough food, right? If you're tired, if your muscles and your body hurt bad, eat more food. And you might gain weight. That's okay, because that's how you gain strength. You can go on a cut later on, retain some of the strength, and get back down to the weight you were. That's sort of how you have to do it when you're a trained human, when you're a trained individual, right? And that's okay, because that gives you a lot of time. You've got time. Everybody's got time. Doesn't matter if you're 50. Go through a strength cycle and then cut a little bit. It's good for your body to push it in both ways. My body has felt incredible over the last 3.5 weeks as far as recovery goes. And I've been doing not only the heavy strength cycle with the squat, I've been putting in each day I squat, I also deadlift 40 plus reps at 80 plus percent. That's not true. It's been more like 70%. But then I've upped it recently, and my legs feel, and then after that squat and strength session, then I'm doing long 20 to 30-minute CrossFit EMOMs for conditioning and skill work and stuff. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm doing strength work with bench and snatch and clean and jerk and overhead press and more conditioning CrossFit stuff. And my body feels good every day. Like, I get to about Friday, and that's where I'm starting to be like, okay, I need a break. I get my weekend, and by Monday, I'm good again. And in the one factor that's been incredible has been, I have made sure that I am for sure at calorie maintenance, but more than likely in calorie surplus. And I've put on at least 10 pounds. That's the only, what you may call negative side effect, is I put on 10 pounds. I've got less lean, but that's okay. That's expected. I've also been doing creatine. Yeah, man, we're going to have a breakdown of this 6-week squat program in 3 weeks from now. Really excited to share the results of that, see what my new max squat is. God, I'm excited to see what that happens. And yeah, man, life is good. Life is good. And if I'm the only one who ever listens to this, which I know I'm not going to be, but when I re-listen to this, dude, life is good. But you got to go make it better. Because why would you go the other direction? That's it, baby. Snap Podcast, October 13th, 2021. I'll talk to you next week. Peace.